wherever you are. We are entering the almost the last leg of the course. So let's begin. Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Nashunvannuti Visida Sadanam Mahaganapataye Namaha. We had a look at the first few verses of the 17th Adhyaya. Like I told you, it is a kind of companion chapter to the 14th, developing on the idea of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and further, the attitudes that go along with these three gunas. We had seen up to, oh, 1 second, where is my file? To show all windows. Oh, there are too many windows. Okay. You can see. Yeah, we're done up to this yesterday. Okay. So far, we saw he is basically talking about different aspects of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So we saw the yajna that was along the lines of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Now he comes to tapas. Deva Dvija Guru Prajna Pujanam Shaucham Arjavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsa Shariram Tapa Uchyate. So simplicity, self-restraint, purity, benevolence, respect for gods, for brahmanas, for gurus, and the wise. This is austerity of the body. So when we say tapas, tapas is at three levels. Tapas at the level of body, kaya, tapas at the level of speech, vak, and tapas at the level of thought, manas. So here, Deva Dvija Guru Prajna Pujanam. So Deva, which is the deities, gods. Dvija. Dvija in general can mean anybody from the first three varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. Here probably it refers to Brahmana, but basically kind of reverence for people who are contributing to the society in a certain kind of way, who are working selflessly. See, the whole concept here is a small group of people, at least in the theoretical, the visualization, a small group of people are trying to work for the larger good without expecting for themselves. Because not everybody can do that. Most people are working for their survival and day-to-day thing. Now, this small group of people who are identified initially based on their competence, over a period of time, it became a birth-based distinction. But the responsibility of this group of people was to preserve the culture and work for the welfare of the society without expectation. So that is the reason why they are also in this thing. And then Guru, the teachers, preceptors. Then Prajna, a wise person. So a wise person can come from any varna. Okay, so a wise person can come from anywhere. Once there is wisdom, they have transcended all these other bindings. So whether they are young or old, whether they are from this varna or that varna, doesn't matter. Once they are wise, they have transcended these material barriers. They must also be respected. So the wise people, the teachers, the brahmanas, the devas. So all the respect for all these people. Then Shaucham, purity. Arjavam, straightforwardness. Brahmacharyam. Brahmacharya, like I had told you earlier, it is one of the four ashramas. In the initial days of our life, we are like a student. So studenthood is called Brahmacharya. Also, Brahmacharya is sometimes used as an equivalent for celibacy. Now, there is the idea of brahmacharya after marriage. It refers to being faithful to your spouse. That is, brahmacharya is defined when, in that sense, it is in the broadest sense, it means adhering to Brahman, treading that path which is aligned to the best things. So, in that sense, brahmacharya. Um, Sometimes some of the overzealous, gurus and overzealous people, they somehow advocate celibacy as a great virtue. In fact, in our tradition, there is a lot of emphasis on being fertile. It is very important for your species to increase. Right now, if you look at the basic idea of our tradition, which is on sustainability, for a species to sustain, you must have population, and population must grow at a certain level. If population doesn't grow at a certain level, then this it won't sustain. It's not sustainable, right? So when they are for sustainability, they are not going to be so foolish as to promote celibacy completely. So here it must be understood as being, maintaining fidelity and having honesty, that kind of a thing. Then ahimsa, not injuring others. Cha shariram tapa uchyate. So these are the traits that lead to the refinement of um, the body. This is the sharira tapaha, the austerity of the body that leads to refinement of the body. And another important thing is when we are defining Brahmana or Kshatriya, all these things, in the Gita, we will see later in the 18th chapter, they are defined by the traits. So people who have got these traits, not so much people who are born in that particular family, especially in the context of the Gita. Today, the meaning of these words have changed, but in the context of the Gita, in the tradition, Brahmana is a person who has traits of serenity and who's got forgiveness, austerity, who's working for larger good. That is a definition. So anybody who is doing that, anybody who is doing social work, anybody who's trying to help society, we have to respect. So it can be taken in that broadest sense of the word, which is as per the definition given in the Gita. Okay. So let us go to this. Deva Dvija Guru Prajna.
Deva Dvija Guru Prajna.
Pujanam Shauchamarjavam.
Pujanam Shauchamarjavam.
Brahmacharya Mahimsa cha.
Brahmacharya Mahimsa cha.
Shariram Tapa Uchyate.
Shariram Tapa Uchyate.
So this is austerity of the body. Then Anudvegakaram Vakyam Satyam Priyam Hitachayat Swadhyayabhyasanam Chaiva Vangmayam Tapa Uchyate. So this is the austerity of speech. Speaking words that are truthful, that are pleasant, beneficial, not causing distress or anxiety, as well as the study and recitation of the scriptures. This is austerity of speech. So Anudvegakaram, not not causing distress, not causing confusion, anxiety. So udvega is a kind of confusion and anxiety. So not causing anxiety. Anudvegakaram. Then satyam, which is true, honest. Priya hitam, which is very pleasant and beneficial. Chayat vakyam, speaking words that have these qualities. Swadhyaya abhyasanam. So swadhyaya abhyasanam. So swadhyaya and abhyasa. Abhyasanam means the like practice, and swadhyaya is self-study. So study, and the here in this context it refers to study of the traditional works, the sacred works, the scriptures, the Veda. So Veda dhyayana and abhyasa of what is ordained in the traditional works. But we can even take this as any general study. Whatever we have taken up, our chosen area of work, we sincerely study it, put efforts, and practice it. So here he's talking about swadhyaya abhyasanam. So swadhyaya, self-study, and abhyasa, bringing it into practice. So both these things are important, but basically study and recitation of the text. Cha eva vangmayam tapa uchyate. So this is the austerity of the speech. It leads to refinement of speech. Once we do this, what happens is our speech gets refined. Okay, anudvegakaram vakyam.
Anudvegakaram vakyam.
Satyam priyahitam chayat.
Satyam priyahitam chayat.
Swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva.
Swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva.
Vangmayam tapa uchyate.
Vangmayam tapa uchyate.
Then manah prasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhirityeta tapo manasam uchyate. So silence, serenity of mind, self-control, gentleness, purity of thought and being, this is the austerity of mind. Manah prasadaha, kind of very relaxed, serenity, peace of mind. Saumyatvam, like gentleness. Maunam, silence when it's not required to speak. Silence. And when it is internal, that kind of internal silence is very important. Only then we can, witness the world in all its glory. If we are constantly chattering inside our head, we cannot observe what is there next to us. So that internal silence is very important. Atma vinigraha, so self-control. Bhava samshuddhihi, purity of being, purity of thought. Iti etat manasam tapa uchyate. This is said, this is called as the mental tapas, the tapas of the mind. It leads to refinement of the mind. So, manah prasada saumyatvam.
Manah prasada saumyatvam.
Maunam atma vinigraha.
Maunam atma vinigraha.
Bhava samshuddhirityetat.
Bhava samshuddhirityetat.
Tapo manasam uchyate.
Tapo manasam uchyate.
Then he says, Shraddhaya paraya taptam tapastat tribidham naraihi aphala kangshibhir yuktaihi satvikam parichakshate. Now, what is satvika tapas? This threefold austerity, diligently practiced with utmost commitment and without desire for reward, is of the nature of sattva. Paraya shraddhaya taptam tat tapa trividham bhavati. So this threefold austerity, trividham tapaha, paraya shraddhaya taptam. So diligently practicing it with utmost devotion and commitment. Okay. Aphala kangshibhihi yuktaihi naraihi. Man, a person who is doing it without expectation of any reward, taptam tapaha satvikam parichakshate. So such a tapas is deemed to be satvika. Now, people who do these things, who try to adhere to this austerity of the body, speech, and mind, when it is done because this is what needs to be done, this is what is expected of me as a cultured human being, then it becomes a satvika tapas. Whereas if you are expecting something out of this, oh, I'm going to maintain some pleasantness and speech, but at the end of that you have to give me a toffee. That is like when we teach kids, we say, oh, okay, fine, you don't speak for another 10 minutes, I will give you a candy. So you are purchasing that maunam for 10 minutes by some gift. But that is with an expectation of reward. A wise person realizes this is good for me. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to get anything as a result of this. It's just good for me. Now, if I don't get angry for the next 1 week, will I get some special gift? No, the gift is that you are not angry for 1 week. That itself is a gift. Right? So it's very important when they say that aphala kangshibhihi, or not having an eye on the reward. Again and again we see in the Gita, right? They are not trying to say, oh, you are not going to get your rightful share of what work you have done. It just means that when the work itself is the reward, there is no point in trying to look for some other reward. Right? So when we do things which are aligned to our nature with what we like to do, and what is supposed to be done, what is the suitable for us, that itself is a reward. We don't need any other reward. Nice, for 5 course meal in some good restaurant, that itself is a reward. I don't need to have, as a result, I will come and have lunch with you, but after that, what will I get? The lunch itself is what I'm getting. So that idea is, again and again, it is repeated. It should be understood as the process is the reward, not something else which comes out of it. So people who do this threefold austerity without expecting, that is the nature of sattva. So shraddhaya paraya taptam,
Shraddhaya paraya taptam,
tapastat trividham naraihi,
tapastat trividham naraihi,
aphala kankshibhir yuktaihi,
aphala kankshibhir yuktaihi,
satvikam parichakshate.
satvikam parichakshate.
Satkara mana pujartham tapo dambhena chaivayat kriyate tadiha proktam rajasam chalam adhruvam. So this threefold austerity, which is practiced merely out of pride and hypocrisy for the sake of gaining temporary rewards, such as praise and respect and special treatment, this is of the nature of rajas. So satkara mana pujartham dambhena cha eva yat tapah kriyate tat iha rajasam chalam adhruvam proktam. So satkara, for the sake of some special treatment, for respect, for good behavior from other people, mana, for the sake of pride and respect and for their name, pujartham, again for the reason why they will be respected by other people, they'll be revered by other people and so on. Dambhena, out of hypocrisy, cha eva yat tapah kriyate, the people who do this threefold tapa, threefold austerity for the sake of these things, out of pride and hypocrisy, tat iha rajasam is known to be the rajasic tapa, which is chalam and adhruvam, which is very, very temporary. The results are temporary. So they are the objective is to gain some temporary rewards. They are doing it. It's not a lifestyle change, right? So in the case of rajas, the rajasic tendency is that they are not making a full-fledged lifestyle change. It is just for a temporary thing. Oh, somebody, I remember a friend of mine. He was a little overweight. And so just before he got married, for some 6 months, he did all the dieting and everything. He went to the gym and this thing, so he'll fit in his wedding suit. And he was looking like a hero on the wedding day. And 6 months later, he's just back to his old size, a flabby guy, and not bothered about anything. So it's for temporary reward. You're doing it just for the time being. It's not a lifestyle change or something. Okay, for this particular reason, for getting this thing, praise and whatever, getting a thumbs up from his wife. But after, the thing is, okay, he's back to his old self. So that is a rajasic. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of times we also do that all in many instances. But we should know this to be a rajasic thing. Whereas sattvika person will change the lifestyle, will do this because it is supposed to be done. So satkara mana pujartham.
Satkara mana pujartham.
Tapo dambhena chaivayat.
Tapo dambhena chaivayat.
Kriyate tadiha proktam.
Kriyate tadiha proktam.
Rajasam chalamadhruvam.
Rajasam chalamadhruvam.
Moodha grahenatmano yat pidaya kriyate tapaha parasyotsādanārtham va tat tamasam udahritam. So this threefold austerity performed with foolish notions by torturing oneself or injuring others is the nature of tamas. So moodha grahena atmanaha pidaya parasya utsadanartham va yat tapah kriyate tat tamasam udahritam. So moodha grahena, so with foolish notions, atmanaha pidaya, by troubling oneself, torturing oneself, parasya Utsadanartham. So, with performed by foolish notions, torturing oneself, troubling other people. Yat tapaha, this kind of tapas kriyate, tat tamasam udahartam. This is, can be called as a tamasic tapas, where they don't understand this, what it means to be having a tapas at the level of body, speech, and mind, and they end up causing injury. So, tamas is not only talking about lethargic and the nature of sloth. It also has an element of malice and troubling the world, troubling oneself kind of a tendency. So that we should, when we see the qualities of tamas, more and more we see that it is not just the aspect of laziness, it also has this element of malice. So mudha grahenatmano yat
मूढग्राहेणात्मनो यत्
पीडया क्रियते तपः
पीडया क्रियते तपः
परस्योत्सादनार्थं वा
परस्योत्साधनार्थं वा
तत् तामसम् उदाहृतम्.
तत्तामसमुदाहृतम्.
Then दातव्यम iti yad danam diyate anupakariणे deshe kale cha patre cha tad danam satvikam smritam. We saw the different views on yajna. So from the lens of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Then we saw tapas, the threefold austerity, and how these three attitudes look at tapas. Now we come to dana. So yajna, dana, tapas are the manners in which we adhere to dharma. I had mentioned to you earlier. So this is the kind of pedagogy of dharma is seen in yajna, dana, and tapas. So what is a right kind of charity? Giving with a feeling that it is one's duty to give, without expecting anything in return, and offering it at the right place at the right time to a worthy person who cannot return the favor is the nature of sattva. See how many conditions are there. It is such a well constructed idea of what is dana. This should be the printed in golden letters and put in front of every trust, any individual who wants to donate any money. So deshe kale cha patre cha datavyam iti anupakarine yat danam diyate tad danam satvikam smritam. So deshe kale cha patre cha. So desha, kala, patra, all the three are important. One is, where are you giving it? You may be giving a fantastic gift to somebody. You cannot give it in the middle of the street. You cannot give it somewhere, some random place. It has to be at the right place. There was a question. Yeah, okay. I'll repeat. So, deshe kale cha patre cha. In the right place, kala, right time. So you want to give somebody, but you have to give it at the right time that is most suitable, appropriate. Then patra, to the deserving person. This is very important. Datavyam, when we give it to this people, iti anupakarine, one who cannot do any favor to us in return. We are not expecting anything from them. We are giving it, that is, it's our duty to give. Yad danam diyate, tad danam satvikam smritam. So we are giving it with the feeling it's our duty to give. That's one important thing. It's not like I am giving, I am so great, I'm giving you. Because that's what we saw was the asuric tendency in 16th chapter. I am great, I have all this thing, I have done dana, I will do more, I have killed my enemies, I will kill tomorrow. This is not the attitude of a person who is engaging in sattvika dana. It is my duty to give. I have been helped by so many people in my life. I was so lucky to receive, help from my parents, from my gurus, from friends. There are so many people in the world who don't have that good fortune. So it is my duty to share a little bit whatever I have. So that kind of a thing that you are feeling that it's my duty to give. You are not expecting any favor in return, because then it becomes a transaction. It doesn't become dana. Without expecting anything in return, And this deshe kale cha patre cha is very, very important. That offering at the right place at the right time to a deserving person who cannot return the favor. This is very important, right? Many times we see in our own mythological stories how they somebody will do tapas for a long time, and Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, somebody, they will give some vara, and without doing any due diligence, and then later there will be some major consequences as a result of that. So even for example, when we see the so-called dani, the so-called very generous people in our tradition, lot of, so when people say, oh, Karna used to give anybody who used to go and ask him, he used to give some help. That is foolishness. It's apatra dana. So dana makes sense. Now, Karna would have done so many donations, whatever. First of all, it is Duryodhana's money. He has blown it up, giving it to other people. Well and good. But where does the in the character of Karna, where does it really shine when Indra comes and asks him for his kavacha and kundala? He gives it to him, but even there he takes a Shakti Ayudha because his father would have guided him. But there, where he is giving off himself, and there is a certain detachment which is there. Even of course, like here it is not sattvika because he's expecting something in return. But even otherwise, if he had not given any Shakti Ayudha, he would have still given by the same precedent. So when it is to a deserving person you are giving, then it has certain value. It is remembered as a sattvika dana. But when this dana becomes mindless, it is very dangerous, right? So, for example, whenever we are also donating any money to any institutions, unless we know that organization well, unless we know the people, if we just say, oh, I have to, I know some people who are like, they feel, oh, we should do dana, it's good, dana dharma madbeku. Every year I have to give this much of money. So I will just randomly give it to some organization. So it is without doing the due diligence. That's not the right thing according to Gita. We have to identify who is the right person who cannot do any favor in return, and worthy cause, worthy individual whose credentials have been verified at the right place at the right time, and offering something whatever we can. If we offer beyond our means, also it is foolish because we have to sustain ourselves. It is no point in I coming on the street trying to help somebody go up, right? So I must do dana with whatever little I can afford to. So this kind of notion, oh, whatever somebody asks, he will just give. He's so dildar. He's foolish. He's not dildar. If somebody is happily sharing a part of their wealth, that is good. If I have only 10 rupees and I give you 10 rupees, I will come on the street. I cannot help anybody else then. I will be dependent on the society. I will be a parasite. So if I have 10 rupees, I will use certain amount for my welfare and give you 1 rupee. So that is good. That then you are being a responsible citizen. So sometimes I feel these notions when it comes to dana and when it comes to these ideas, there is a lot of confusion in our society. A person who, it is okay for a sannyasi who doesn't have any expectation, he can give away everything and he can go because his entire lifestyle is molded like that. But as a brahmachari, as a grihastha, as even a person in vanaprastha, you cannot afford to be so irresponsible. You have to be careful. At the same time, you have to do dana to the extent you can, but not to the point that you or yourself will become you are yourself holding a begging bowl. You should not reach that stage, right? So this is really an important verse. What is Sattvika Dana? It gives us an idea of how we must share our wealth. So Datavyam iti yad danam.
Datavyam iti yadhanam.
Diyate nupakarine.
Diyate nupakarine.
Deshe kale cha patre cha.
Deshe kale cha patre cha.
Taddanam satvikam smritam.
Taddanam satvikam smritam.
Yattu pratyupakarartham phalam uddishya va punaha diyate cha pariklishtam taddanam rajasam smritam. So giving something reluctantly or giving with the aim of getting something in return or with other ulterior motive is the nature of rajas. So yattu pratyupakarartham phalam uddishya va punah pariklishtam cha diyate tad danam rajasam smritam. Yattu pratyupakarartham, giving with this expectation of something in return. So treating dana also like a transaction. So I will give 10,000 rupees, take photograph with this thing and use it for all my publicity. I have given 10,000. I have given 10,000. So you are building your brand by giving some peanuts. Instead of giving to the advertising agency, you are giving it to some NGO. So that is not sattvika dana. That is also dana. It also has value. It is also going to help people, but it is not the best kind of dana. So yattu pratyupakarartham phalam uddishya, with the expectation of something in return, trying to, doing it with some sort of expectation. Va punah pariklishtam chadiyate, giving it reluctantly. Oh, you really want this? Okay, what to do? You are not using it. Okay, somebody asks you, you are not using this book. Can I take it? Okay, what to do? Okay, fine. Then you are reluctantly giving. See, I'm giving it to you. I'm a great dani. I'm a great philanthropist. That is another problem. You have to give with an open heart. You must be very happy to give, not just bound by that. So, pariklishtam chadiyate tad danam raja samsmritam. So, know that dana to be Rajasa. Okay, there is some question. Okay, I'll come to these questions after this set. Okay, so this is the Rajasic dana. Yattu pratyupakarartham
Yattu pratyupakarartham
phalam uddishya va punah
phalam uddishya va punah
diyate cha pariklishtam
diyate cha pariklishtam
tad danam rajasam smritam.
tad danam rajasam smritam.
Finally, tamasic. Adeshakal danam apatrebhyascha diyate asatkritam avagnatam tat tamasam udahritam. So giving with contempt and disrespect, offering it at the wrong place and the wrong time to an unworthy person, this is the nature of tamas. So adesha kale, this is at the wrong place at the wrong time. Asat kritam, without offering any respect. Avagnatam, kind of looking down on this person and contemptuously with disrespect and not bothering. Apatrebhya, to the wrong person, to the unworthy person, to somebody who doesn't deserve this. Yat danam diyate, one who does this kind of dana, that is tamasam udahritam. Know that dana to be the nature of tamas. Right? Pretty straightforward. Adesha kale yad danam
Adeshakale yaddanam
apatrebhyascha diyate
apatrebhyascha diyate
asatkritam avagnatam
asatkrutam avagnatam
tat tamasam udahritam.
tat tamasamudahrutam.
So these are some of the traits of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Just go to this question thing next. Then there's a discussion on the Om Tat and Sat here. Let's go to this question. This is from Pooja Shrimali ji. What are the different kinds of dana one can do other than money? So dana is not necessarily money. It could be any object. It could be any physical thing. It could be dana of your time and energy. In some of the cultures, like in the Sikh tradition, you have shramadana. You can go and work at the langar. You can help people. So you can help with supporting somebody with physically going and helping them. That's also dana. You're offering your expertise. You're offering your even like say somebody is your friend needs some investing tips. You are helping them set up a portfolio in the stock market. That's also dana only. You are giving you're teaching somebody something. That's also so. Like this, different things are. Anything can be dana, provided you're doing it. Ideally, the sad dana, sattvika dana is when you're doing it to the right, at the right place, right time, giving to the right person without expectation, without having any reward in mind, and doing it with a sense that it should be done. So any dana is like that. Okay. Vibhu Bharadwaj ji has a question on sattva, rajas, and day-to-day work, and about people who are having rajasic tendency are recognized compared to sattvic tendency, and in practical terms, rajas seem to be more rewarding way to market yourself. A sattvic person is not rewarded in the corporate world. How do we balance these tendencies at work? Okay, there's another question earlier on understanding sattva, rajas, and tamas with regard to the day-to-day life and corporate world. There are a few more things related to sattva, rajas, tamas, the 18th adhyaya. So after that gets completed, I'll take some time to answer this question to the best I can. I have only been in the corporate world for 1 year, so I have very limited experience. Maybe we can get one of the other participants who have more experience in the corporate world to answer this question with this background of sattva, rajas, tamas. At this point onwards, the 23rd shloka to the 28th shloka in the 17th chapter is primarily focused on this three important syllables, Om, Tat, and Sat. So, Om, Tat, Sad iti nirdesho brahmanas trivida smritaha brahmanastena vedascha yajnascha vihitaha pura. So, Om, Tat, Sat. Each word is a reference to the Supreme Brahman. So the Vedas, the various yajnas, brahmanas were established in this Om Tat Sat from the ancient times. So Om Tat Sat iti trividaha nirdeshaha brahmanaha smritaha. No, the Om is one syllable, Tat is one syllable, and Sat is one syllable. These three syllables have been indications. They are nirdeshaha, they are a reference, they point towards Brahman. Okay, so when Om, Tat, or Sat is said, this is an indication of Brahman. Om itself is a single syllable word which is referring to Brahman. Then Tat, we say Tattvamasi, that you are, is one of the Upanishad Vakya. So Tat there means Brahman. Similarly, Sat is used as Brahman. So these three are used. And Tena Brahmanaha Vedaha cha Yajnaha cha Pura Vihitaha. From ancient times, Pura, Brahmanas, the Vedas, and Yajnas were all established in Om, Tat, and Sat. So when we perform Yajna, Dana, and Tapas with the attitude of Sattva, it is the best case scenario in the three. If you take Yajna, Dana, Tapas, and you take the three gunas, the best case scenario among this is doing it with Sattva. No, rather than doing it with Rajas or Tamas, having the attitude of Sattva is the best. However, even then, there is a tinge of impurity associated with this, which is why Krishna talks about transcending the three gunas, Nistray Gunya Bhavarjuna, he says, right? So, although Sattva is very good, one has to go beyond Sattva itself. Therefore, invoking Om, Tat, and Sat helps cleanse the activity, helps us connect with Brahman. So, Om, we know, is a single syllable word that denotes the Brahman, is a most sacred sound according to Hinduism. Tat simply means that or it. It refers to Brahman. When we say that, it reminds us that we are not doing the work. We are not saying aham, we are saying tat. That is taking care. Something is taking care. So we are not allowing the ego to grow. Sat is existence, reality, good. So this goodness is there in Brahman. So it inspires an overall attitude of goodness and action. So that's why the Om, Tat, and Sat. So Om, Tat, Sad iti nirdesho.
Om Tatsaditi Nirdesho
Brahmanas Trivida Smritaha.
Brahmanas Trividha Smrutaha
Brahmanas Tena Vedascha.
Brahmanas Tena Vedascha
Yajnascha Vihitaha Pura.
Yajnascha Vihitaha Pura.
And Tasmad Omit Yudahritya Yajnadana Tapakriyaha Pravartante Vidhanoktaha Satatam Brahmavadinam. Therefore, as a rule, all the students of the scriptures, all the Brahmavadis, they always chant Om before Yajna, Dana, or Tapas. So, Tasmat, therefore, Brahmavadinam Vidhanoktaha. as a rule, Vidhanoktaha, Brahmavadina, the people who are, the Brahmavadi is a person who is aligned to this idea, who stands for the Brahmajnana, who is, what do you say? He's from this school of thought, let us say. So these students, Yajna Dana Tapah Kriyaha. So before undertaking Yajna Dana or Tapa, Om iti udahritya satatam pravartante. So they always chant Om before they begin Yajna Dana Tapas. For example, we are having these sessions. So we start this session when we start with Om. Then we will say Sahana Vavatu, or we will say Gananam, or whatever, Jnanandamayam Devam, anything. But first we say Om. We start with Om. So that is an indication that we are kind of bringing to our consciousness the idea of the Supreme Being. We are trying to cultivate that presence of Brahman. So that's why we say Om. So Tasmad Om ityudahritya
तस्मादोमित्युदाहृत्य
Yajna Dana Tapah Kriyaha
यज्ञदानतपः क्रियाः
Pravartante Vidhanoktaha
प्रवर्तन्ते विधानोक्ताः
Satatam Brahmavadinam.
सततं ब्रह्मवादिनाम्
तदित्यनभिसन्धाय फलं यज्ञतपक्रियाः दानक्रियाश्च विविधाः क्रियन्ते मोक्षकाङ्क्षिभिः. The seekers of liberation, mokshakankshiभिः, they say tat before yajna, dana and tapas with no desire for rewards. So mokshakankshiभिः, the people who are desirous of moksha, tat iti udahartya, we understand this. Say tat phalam anabhisandhaya, without expecting any reward. Vividaha, vivida, so phalam anabhisandhaya vividaha, so they without expecting any kind of different rewards. Yajna tapah kriyaha, or vividaha yajna tapah kriyaha, sorry, this is to yajna tapah kriyaha. So the variety of yajna dana tapas, dana kriyaha. So vividaha yajna tapah kriyaha dana kriyaha cha kriyante. So before they undertake any of these variety of yajna, dana and tapas activities, they say tat without a desire for reward. So seekers of liberation, again tat is an indication of that Brahman. So tadityanabhisandhaya phalam yajna tapah kriyaha dana kriyascha
विविधाः
kriyante mokshakankshiभिः.
क्रियन्ते मोक्षकाङ्क्षिभिः.
Then sadbhave sadhubhave cha sadityetat prayujyate prashaste karmani tatha sachabdah partha yujyate. So sat refers to goodness and reality. Therefore, the word sat is also used to denote any act worthy of praise. So partha sadbhave sadhubhave cha sat iti etat prayujyate tatha prashaste karmani sat shabdah yujyate. So sadbhave sadhubhave. So the word sat refers to goodness. So sadbhava is referring to something which is good as well as something which is existent. So sat is both existence and goodness. Right? So both these things, when we say satya, that means it is existent. That is how it is. It is exactly how it is. So the word satya is used for truth. So existence is sat and goodness also is sat. So therefore, so sadbhave sadhubhave cha sat iti. So there is what is good, what is real. Etat prayujyate. So sat iti etat prayujyate. So the word sat is used. Tatha, therefore, prashaste karmani. So any act which is worthy of praise, we use sat shabdah yujyate. The word sat is used to denote goodness and reality. Therefore, the word sat is also used to denote any act which is worthy of praise. So sadbhave sadhubhave cha
सद्भावे साधुभावे च
सदित्येतत् प्रयुज्यते
सदित्येतत् प्रयुज्यते
प्रशस्ते कर्मणि तथा
प्रशस्ते कर्मणि तथा
सच्छब्दः पार्थ युज्यते.
सच्छब्दः पार्थयुज्यते.
Then he says, Yagnye tapasi dane cha sthitihi saditi chochate karma chaiva tadarthiyam sadityevabhidhiyate. So, doing yajna, dana, and tapas with dedication is sat. Any action we perform to support that is also sat. So, yagnye tapasi dane cha sthitihi sat iti cha uchyate. So, yajna, dana, and tapas, when we are doing this with dedication, by being established in it, it is called sat. Then tadarthiyam karma cha eva sat iti eva abhidiyate. Tadarthiyam karma, any action we do to support this, that is also known as sat. It is also termed sat. So, yagnye tapasi dane cha
यज्ञे तपसि दाने च
स्थितिः सदिति चोच्यते.
स्थितिः सदिति चोच्यते.
कर्म चैव तदर्थीयं
कर्म चैव तदर्थीयं
सदित्येवाभिधीयते.
सदित्येवाभिधीयते.
And finally he says अश्रद्धया हुतं दत्तं तपस्तप्तं कृतं च यत् असदित्युच्यते पार्थ न च तत् प्रेत्य नो इहा. So doing yajna dana or tapas without dedication is asat, and it has no value in this world or beyond. So Partha, ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapah taptam kritam chayat asat iti uchyate tat pretya na iha no. So ashraddhaya, without dedication, without sincerity, without faith, any undertaking, any hutam, any offering, hutam dattam, any offering we give, tapaha taptam, any tapas we perform, kritam chayat. So anything we do, whether it's yajna, offering something in yajna, whether we do dana, offering something in charity, or tapas, whether we work sincerely, put whatever work, when hard work and effort, when we do it without dedication, you can do tapas. For example, you can work very hard without any dedication, just blindly do it. Okay, you can say, oh, I'm doing this. So blindly you follow it without using your head, just blindly do it. Or dana, okay, take whatever you want. You do this, okay, get lost. But without any sincerity, without being established in that, when we do it, asat iti uchyate. It is called asat. And tat na pretya na iha. So neither beyond, pretya is kind of in the world, the after life, or iha, here in this world. So asat basically means unreal or non-existent, and it is the opposite of reality and goodness, right? So when we do something with a good intention, when we have the right intention in mind, Krishna says nahi kalyana krit kaschit dukkham tatam gacchati, some right, nahi kalyana krit kaschit, I forget the verse, durgatim
दुर्गतिं
tata
तात
gacchati.
गच्छति.
Yeah, durgatim tata gacchati, correct. So in that he says, when somebody undertakes a good action with good intention, with sincere efforts, they will never come to a stage which is like durgati, like bad state. They will always be in a good position, even though there may be temporary dips, there may be temporary problems. Eventually they will always reach a good stage. Whereas somebody who does something without dedication, whatever they do, it will be useless, it will not have any value. See, for something to have value, our heart must be in it. When we do something without sincerity, our heart is not in it, it won't have any value. So ashraddhaya hutam dattam
अश्रद्धया हुतं दत्तं
tapastaptam kritam chayat
तपस्तप्तं कृतं च यत्
asadityuchyate partha
असदित्युच्यते पार्थ
Nacha tat pretya no iha.
न च तत् प्रेत्य नो इह.
Okay, so with this we come to the end of the 17th adhyaya. We'll do a quick recap again, since these are short chapters. More or less, you'll have these things in your active memory. Sometimes when we do like the second chapter, sixth chapter, and all that, it's very big. So a recap is generally useful. In the 17th and 16th, 15th, all these 12, these are pretty short. So not too much is required. So we'll just quickly run through uh, what is there in this chapter, and tomorrow let us all meet just to get introduced to one another. We'll have a introductory, mutual introduction session, and then I'll start with the 18th chapter. Once we finish that, so hopefully tomorrow we'll do the introduction. If it spills over to the next class, let it spill over, and then I will start the 18th. The 17th adhyaya starts off with Arjuna asking what happens when a person sincerely engages in worship but fails to follow the prescribed rules. Is it sattva, rajas, or tamas? Then Krishna does not give a straight answer. He says it is not such a straightforward question. It's a very involved question. It has so many layers. So he gives a detailed response to this question by delineating the various elements of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Starts off by saying that human attitude itself is of three kinds: sattva, rajas, and tamas, and they're born of one's own nature. And everybody's temperament is aligned to their inborn nature. And we are what our faith is, we are what our attitude is. And this is the most important aspect of our personality in some sense, right? Many times when we meet people, whether they are students, whether they are young professionals, what matters a lot in their growth is their attitude towards their work, their study, and so on. So somebody may be very brilliant, but may not have the right attitude, and eventually lands up with not great results. Whereas a person may be not the best, but because of the right attitude and sincerity and persistence, they may reach a very high level. So whatever our attitude, the way we look at the world, that determines who we are. If we have a friendly attitude towards people, then naturally we will cultivate more friends. Like there's somebody was saying, if you want to have friends, you must first be a friend, right? That kind of a thing. So people who are friendly by nature, they end up having more friends. People who have the right attitude towards money, they end up saving more money, or they end up investing wisely. People who don't have the right attitude towards money will end up losing whatever. Even if they have $1 million, they can lose that money very quickly. It doesn't take much to lose money. So like that, the attitude and the faith, the shraddha of each individual is very important. Then he starts talking about the way of worship. So people who are sattvika, they worship devas. The rajasic, they worship the yakshas and rakshasas. The tamasic, they worship the evil spirits and ghosts and things like that. What we respect also indicates what kind of state we may be in. For example, if there are some movie buffs, okay, or if there are some people who like to watch movies and who have been watching a lot of movies, based on the kind of movies people like, we can get an estimate of what their personality is or what their taste is. Similarly, if somebody is a student of music, okay, I sit with this person and say, what are the kinds of, who are the great musicians you admire? If somebody gives me a list of great musicians they admire, based on that, I can somewhat estimate what their standard is. Because I have been studying music for so many years, I have had the chance to listen to the greats in, say, Carnatic and Hindustani tradition. So if somebody tells me a list of 10 musicians that they are top 10 musicians, I can probably have a good estimate of where they stand, what is their standards. Similarly, if some authors, when you talk to some people and they say, oh, this is my favorite author, these are the favorite authors I have, then a person who is very well read will be able to very quickly estimate where they stand. It may be off by some amount, but a very brilliant person who has got a lot of interest in multiple things will not say the best thing that I have read is today's newspaper. Okay, if somebody says, oh, the high watermark of all literature is daily newspaper, then we know that, okay, well, they are at some level, no problem. So what we respect is also an indication of who we are. That's what it's trying to say. Then people who are performing austerities motivated by false pride and ego, and they foolishly torture their body and also the divine spirit within. So know them to be of a demonic resolve. In the name of austerity, in the name of ritual, we should not trouble ourselves, we should not torment ourselves. It should, any ritual is basically a process to cleanse oneself, is a process to focus our mind and our body and our speech on something which is pure and useful. If we are going to trouble ourselves to no end and subject oneself to torture, that is not good. So Krishna reminds that any exaggerated austerity or mortification of the body or engaging in ritual which is harmful is to be avoided. It is basically demonic. Then we come to food. So food that is dear to the people of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So food which are the Sattvic Ahara is something which is promoting longevity, which is promoting vitality, stamina, health, happiness, contentment. And foods basically that are tasty and mild and nourishing and pleasant. These are the ones which are dear to that of sattva. So all the foods that are nourishing, that are not, basically even today, right, when you say too much of refined sugars, too much of fatty foods, these are bad for health. So they are against our longevity. So therefore, anything which is not excessive in any way, very spicy food, very high sugar, high salt, high fat, none of these things are good for longevity. So anything which is in moderation, which is mild, this is sattvic ahara. The rajasic ahara is something which leads to pain and sorrow and sickness, which are excessively bitter, excessively sour, excessively spicy, dry, pungent. So any extreme. So when the tastes are moderated and balanced, and it's helping longevity, which is very delicious food, that is sattvic. Whereas something which is extremely spicy, extremely sweet, extreme things, so that kind of maybe you can say junk food is rajasic food in some sense, right? Very excessive of something. And the foods which are insipid and pale and rotten and leftover, filthy junk, like literal junk, then it is tamasic. So what kind of food Krishna is not saying? The method of preparation and our attitude towards consumption is very important. Then yajna also, just like with food, even with yajna, there is a sattvika, tamasika, rajasika yajna. When we are performing a yajna with a lot of care and sincerity, according to following the rules, without any thought of reward, with the sense that it must be performed, this is a sattvika yajna. When we are performing yajna for the sake of rewards or merely to show off our wealth or our name and so on, this is rajas. Yajna which is performed contrary to all the established rules, without sincerity, without offering food, without any sacred text being recited, without respect to guests, without paying the purohita, without taking care of people, this kind of irresponsible and botched up yajna is tamasic. Then basically we saw the rest of the verses of what we saw today, the austerity of speech, body and mind, the threefold tapas, and a person who does this with commitment without desire is sattvika. The threefold austerity practice merely out of pride or hypocrisy, gaining temporary rewards such as praise and respect and special treatment is rajas. And this austerity performed with all foolish notions by troubling oneself and troubling others is the nature of tamas. Similarly, dana, when we give because it's a duty to give to the right place, to the right person at the right place, right time, without expecting anything in return, giving it to a person who cannot help us back, that kind of a thing is sattvika dana. But giving something reluctantly or with the aim of getting something in return is rajasic. And giving something with contempt and disrespect is the nature of tamas, to a wrong person at the wrong time and the wrong place. So this is tamasic dana. Then finally, he discusses a little bit about the three syllables, Om, Tat, and Sat, all of which are references for Brahman. Om is the single syllable word which denotes Brahman. It is a comprehensive word, which is the most sacred sound in Hinduism. Tat it means that, which is a reference to removing our ego and focusing on the supreme. And Sat refers to goodness and reality. So therefore, we all say Om, Tat, and Sat, the beginning and the end of whatever we do. So that's why at the end of the thing, I also say Om, Tat, and Sat. So this is where the origin of that phrase. All right, so tomorrow we will meet and have this introductory session. What I'll do is before the class tomorrow, I'll put out a short note on like a small framework of some questions, like so that we don't take too much time. Each of us get about 30 seconds to 45 seconds to introduce ourselves. If we can just be prepared. It's not something you don't know, but just to focus it and try to wrap it up in less than a minute so that everybody get a chance to introduce themselves. So we'll do that tomorrow. Thank you so much. And somebody is saying Uppittu can be Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. Well, it depends on this. Same item can be prepared in a Sattvic way, in a Rajasic way, and Tamasic way. Old Uppittu becomes Tamasic, and freshly prepared becomes Sattvic. So this is common from my co-author. All right. So thank you so much. We'll meet again tomorrow, and we'll come to know each other. Looking forward to meeting all of you. Thank you, Sumaji, for reciting today. Om Tat Sat. Namaste.
Om Tat Sat.